Hello, and welcome to our talk this week. This week, we're covering the topic of psychological scarring and how that really affects our whole body, just the way that an actual, real physical scar would affect you. It actually decreases your flexibility and your ability to kind of be resilient and deal with movement, deal with responsiveness to the world. My name is Ailsa Kepi. You can check out my website, www.pleasureforhealth.com, for more information about my programs and what I offer. Um, Today, we're going to be really kind of digging into, for a few minutes, the idea that we we can work with these psychic wounds of trauma that have kind of made us tighten up, made us kind of unaware of those spots, even taken away sensation of different parts of ourselves, just the way a normal scar would. So it interferes with our ability to grow and develop, and even to kind of respond and, like I said, be able to actually live and feel pleasure in the world because we've got these psychological scars that keep us stuck. So you may have had this kind of coming out of pain that you've gone through with some kind of trauma or abuse. If this has affected you in a, you've had a lot of pain, you tend to like pull back. You don't want to go there. You've distanced yourself from that painful sort of area. And the more places we have that we've shut off from, the more parts of ourselves that are not able to be responsive and whole and be in a new relationship with either other people, with ourselves, or even in the world. Trying to get away from pain, or if we're afraid, we have fear around a particular abuse that we've endured or a trauma, we pull back from fear or pain. Both of those things actually makes you more rigid and less feeling. You're more defended against the world or against the pain and the fear within yourself, so that you're not able to really be present. And a lot of people I work with have post-traumatic stress disorder, and we work very closely to work with this very physiological kind of response to trauma. And we want to build resilience by finding connection and by having a communal kind of support network, so that we can gradually soften and find these tender places, these scars in our psyche, that we can just work with gently and gradually to open up and become more responsive again to them, even to be aware of them at all. So this connection to ourself is really important in the healing process from any kind of trauma. It's the ability to kind of be able to respond with emotions that are appropriate to the present moment. So we're not reliving past experiences and bringing that into the present moment. So if someone says a word that you don't like or something like that, and you're triggered by that, and you get hugely angry with this person who has just said the wrong word to you, perhaps that emotional response is from a past trauma when you weren't listened to, or you were called names or something like that, that created this kind of scarring. And that rigidity now, when it's bumped up against by any kind of current happening in your world, bumps up against this painful scar, and you have emotional responses that are outside what would be normal for this present day situation. So this is kind of a PTSD response, in that you're kind of reliving past traumas, and that's what's coming into your response in the current time. And definitely that's not an easy place to live. And so we want to align our psyche with our body, get to know both of them, bring awareness to those scars. Even if they're not seen, we can feel them, bring awareness to them, and start softening them, and being able to bring that trauma, integrate it into our current understanding of ourselves, so that we're not having this out of proportion response. So for any kind of therapy for trauma to work, we have to be able to stay grounded in the present moment. We really need to find ways of being actually here, so that we're dealing with a present moment situation and not having a flashback or going back to some previous traumatic situation. And the way that we do that, or one way that we can do that, is to work with sensory stimulation in our body, because what we're sensing right now is in the present moment. Like, I can see a light behind me, a picture on the wall, I can see my hand in front of my face, I can feel myself sitting on the cushion. So all of these sensory stimuli are happening right in the present moment, and as I bring my awareness to that, I can't stay in a flashback with other things if I'm in my present moment. So then we can work to um, kind of go between the past trauma and the present, and start integrating those pieces carefully and gently, and bringing them into an integrated present moment experience, which is the same kind of thing as we would actually work on the body. If you had a scar and you worked on it gently and softly to kind of integrate it into the surrounding tissue, so it wasn't just a line of scar tissue and then the rest of the normal untraumatized tissue, that we kind of integrate it all together and it can all work together. Similarly, we're trying to integrate what's happened to us in a way where we can be in the present moment. We're not going to forget maybe what's happened to us. Maybe the scar will always be there, just like we'll always have a scar, but it will be integrated, and it will be able to move and be responsive to what we need to do in the present moment. Uh, Even Charles Darwin actually did some research on animals with this, and he noticed that if an organism is stuck in survival mode, all its energies are focused on fighting off unseen enemies, if you will. And it doesn't leave any room for the nurturing, the love, the care of new relationships. And for humans, it means that if we're always defending ourselves against these invisible assaults of past traumas, then our ability to imagine, to plan new things, to play, to learn, even to pay attention to other people's needs is really compromised. We're just about survival, and that's all. And this doesn't really give us a very broad perspective of what life could be, what our experiences could be if we could be more integrated in the present moment and not be having all these scars that we bump up against and then are afraid to touch. So, things about relationship that you might want to notice, and notice if you're bumping up against some of these scars, are things like, um, how nice are you being to people when you don't really want to be nice? And are you not saying no when you want to say no to somebody? Um, how much are you taking on other people's problems and ignoring your own? Basically, when are you not paying attention to what's going on in your own body and just paying attention to everything out here? Because obviously, in a traumatic survival situation, you have to kind of be aware of what's going on around you. But now that we're back, hopefully in a safe place, we can bring ourselves back to the present. We don't want to be out here managing our environment all the time, seeing if everybody else is okay and not being aware of our own self. So we want to bring that awareness back to ourself, back to the psychological scars, which are places that we've just lost touch with. And instead of them going away when we lose touch with them, they actually just operate under the level of our conscious mind. And so we find ourselves being triggered. We find ourselves being super angry when something comes up. We find ourselves afraid, trembling, all these things that happen, and we don't even really remember why. So that offers you, when you bump up against something like that, it offers you the opportunity to dig a little deeper and see, is there a scarred area here that I could work with, that I can bring to my awareness now and integrate, so that I can have more responsiveness, more flexibility and ability to work. So what I noticed in some conversations, I have a group for women that have been abused, emotionally abused. What I've noticed in the group sometimes is that as we heal, we kind of heal within a certain area, and it's like we bump up against a new scar sometimes when someone posts something or says something or offers an opinion that bumps up against a scar. We have a response to that that is out of proportion to what is actually happening. Because right now it's someone's giving their opinion or someone is saying something that resonated for them, but it's triggering us because of past trauma or abuse. And so what happens is we respond from that past thing, and we're kind of exaggerated response, and this can end up becoming a conflict that isn't really about the present day situation. It's not really about the comment that someone posted. It's about 10 years ago when your ex did this really, kind of cut you off or did whatever. And so being more aware of where these scars are and being aware that we have them and that we are responsible to work with them really helps in negotiating, the kinds of communal support that we want to offer each other in this healing time. I would also say that it's very helpful to have a guide, a mentor, a coach, someone like that that you can trust, that you can build this kind of relationship connection with, to practice these kinds of negotiations. And someone that's done their work, they're not going to get triggered all the time with your triggers, and can help you just soften up these psychological scars so that you're able to have that kind of relationship. And I offer this type of coaching to my clients. If you're interested in finding out more, like I said, please do go to my website, www.pleasureforhealth.com, and book a session, book a free consult. I'd be very happy to talk to you about some of these ways of working with trauma and ways of working with psychological scarring. Thank you so much. It's Ailsa Kepi from pleasureforhealth.com.